Yo, what's up, everybody? It's Rick from Only Football bringing you another episode of Only Football brought to you by Star 6 Media. Today, Kyle and I are going over the conference championship Sunday. It's going to be an exciting one. And if you caught our episode a couple weeks ago, you're going to enjoy this one. Then we're going to go into our second segment, talk about the most important QB, who is the most important to their team, who cannot have an off day this weekend. And then we're going to go into our final segment. It's going to be called Pat versus Joe. Let's get it.
Gentlemen, I'm Kyle. That's Rick.
I'm Rick. That's Kyle.
We got, I've learned to ignore it. We've got some of the greatest football on our hands. We have the Kansas City Chiefs playing Joe Burrow, ice cold in the veins, Burrow, and the Kansas City Chiefs. And then on the NFC, we got number 1 seed going against number 2, the best of the best. And you couldn't have painted a better picture. I think we all kind of knew what was going to happen. The only question was for the AFC, is it going to be the Bills? Is it going to be the Bengals? Like, of course, it's going to be the Chiefs. And we got the Bengals kind of separated themselves from the Bills in a big way last week with that win. And we're going to get one first, maybe 1A in the AFC. The Chiefs have the most wins, but the Bengals seem to be playing better football. Joe Burrow is 3-0 against Patrick Mahomes. As me and Rick have discussed, it doesn't mean anything, but we're going to get into it right now because obviously some things are going to change this week if half of those wins Joe Burrow has are in the AFC Championship game. Rick, how important is this? Let's just start with this. Who's going to win this game?
Who's going to win this game? Oof.
Oof. We weren't ready for that one. Oof. Wait. Before we do, I got to show everybody. Look, guys, this is what Rick got me for Christmas. These are Denver Broncos house slippers. I'm never going to take them off ever. Thanks, Rick.
Of course, dude. It's it's a thank you for, having me wear that I still own you sweatshirt next season. So had to give you a thank you present. No, I dude, you said it yourself, man. The Bengals separated themselves ahead of this AFC conference in a huge way last weekend when they were able to take down the Bills in convincing fashion. And I say convincing because a lot of us expected a closer game. And it seemed to me that the Bengals sort of saw that as a disrespect too, because they're like, we are a very good team. We went to the Super Bowl last year, we have had many conversations about this. Sorry, I'm speaking through burps. But we've had
30.
Yeah, we're old. We've had many conversations about this. They went to the Super Bowl last year. They have gotten better this year. And they showed in that game against the Bills that the offensive line is no longer a worry. And that they just out physicaled the Bills, which the Bills are a very physical team themselves. So to out physical the Bills was huge. Who's going to win this game? This was a tough one for me. This was a very tough decision for me. But after what I saw last weekend against the Bills, I think I'm taking the Bengals to take this dub against Mahomes. Now, look, my heart wants the Chiefs to go on. I don't know what it is about me and what I like about Mahomes. Maybe it's similar to why I actually loved Brady when he was winning all those championships, and a lot of people didn't like him, right? And especially if you're in the AFC and the NFC East, or AFC East, you probably hated Tom Brady. But I love Mahomes, man. He's someone who, unfortunately, the Bears passed on, and a lot of other teams passed on, and he's just a generational talent. He is a quarterback that I want that I want to see him successful throughout his entire career, and I want him to win. The thing is, he's got an ankle sprain. His team barely beat the Jaguars last week, and you got, again, we gave credit to Chad Henne for doing what he did on that 98-yard drive. But dude, it's just the way the Bengals played last weekend against the Bills was just outstanding. There's nothing more I can say than they played perfect. They played outstanding, and they out-physicaled the Bills. I think I'm taking the Bengals to win this one, and it's gonna. I want to say it's gonna be a close game, but again, depending on the status of Mahomes, this may not be a close game. The Bengals might just be like, "Wow, look at us! Look at us! Look how good we are! Look how good we are!" And we told you that. So this might be another statement game for the Bengals.
Yeah, I agree. This would be a huge statement game. There's a couple things that I'm looking at. Actually, is there any way we can pause the pod for a second? I know this is unusual, but something has just come up really quick.
Yeah, sure. 1 sec.
Actually, I'll step away for 1 second. Okay.
That's up. Yeah. So while we have Kyle away for a second here, I'll just kind of go on a little bit more about the Bengals. And I mean, we already went over the Bengals, but again, just a little bit more talk about what Joe Burrow has done this year, really, as the Bengals quarterback. And this is a guy, again, who has come from LSU, won the national championship after being told in Ohio State, I believe, that he wasn't going to start. He was going to sit behind this person, that person. And he was like, you know what? I'm going to transfer. He transferred to LSU, became Joey Burr, Joey Cool, and won in LSU. How cool did he look in, when he won the national championship in the locker room with his, full uniform on, cigar in the mouth. Just, he looks so fucking cool. So he brings that winning attitude into his third year in the NFL, into his third year on the Bengals. And as much as I got to give credit to him, he's beaten Mahomes 3 times, right? And while we said that this isn't necessarily, like I said this, it's not necessarily a rivalry, or it's not necessarily like, okay, like he's killing the Chiefs. In this sense, if he goes 2-0 in the AFC Championship game against the Chiefs, it starts to become something for the Chiefs to worry about. He becomes a Chiefs killer, man, and he becomes a Chiefs killer in one of the most important games of the NFL, and that's the game to get you into the Super Bowl. If you don't think 2-0 against a quarterback who's been to the Super Bowl twice, has won one, and is going into his 5th straight AFC Championship game, I don't know what to tell you. But if he beats him 2-0 at this point, like, Joe Burrow might go into the Super Bowl and win. This might be one of those things. So it will be very impressive if he does that. And obviously, again, we talk about what I was talking about, what he did with the Bills last week. He was able to show that toughness. His offensive line was really good. His decision making, his physicality, his toughness, everything about that Bengals team was just outstanding. Like I said, they played perfect. There's nothing else to say, but they played perfect. And Burrow's the leader on that team. Burrow is the guy who is in the huddles before the games, after the games, making sure that his team is ready for a matchup like that against the Bills, right? A team that everyone had picked, especially me and Kyle on this podcast, that we picked to go to the Super Bowl and to be Super Bowl winners. Josh Allen was going to be our Super Bowl MVP, if not NFL MVP, right? Again, things change throughout the season, but this is going to be a very important game for both the Bills and the Chiefs, because Kyle and I will get into it later, but we're going to talk a little bit about just kind of what this game means in our Pat versus Joe segment. So Kyle, give me a thumbs up when you're ready to come back in, And all right, so we got Kyle back in. So Kyle,
Back in.
back in.
Thanks for the flex.
Yeah, for sure.
So some of the things that I wanted to mention, the Bengals starting position for the field. I'm getting into kind of the big things. I think the keys for the Chiefs to be able to win.
Yeah.
Because you're right, they do have a pretty bad defense, and
Mm-hmm.
they do have Mahomes with an ankle injury not playing at 100%. So there's going to be some things that just have to go the Chiefs' way,
Yeah.
and these are the things that I have written down. So the average starting position for the Bengals this year
Mm-hmm.
is the 30.7 yard line. That's a pretty healthy starting position. It's ranked third overall in the National Football League. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that special teams for the Chiefs have been kind of bad, and the Chiefs are also bad at getting turnovers. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But I think pinning the Bengals deep into their own territory as much as possible is going to be really important for this game. And I
Yeah.
mentioned it, that kickoff that the 49ers had, and then they punted it, and then that big play to CeeDee Lamb happened, but it didn't equal any points because that's just a
Yeah.
small example of how important field position is in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So that is definitely going to be one of the keys. And then another big part is the turnovers. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
3-1. That is the turnover ratio for the last 3 games between the Chiefs and Bengals.
Oh
And can
wow.
you guess which one has 3 turnovers and which one has 1?
I'm gonna go with, surprisingly, the Chiefs have 3 turnovers.
Yeah. Yeah, because
Mm-hmm.
they haven't won those games. So it's
Yep.
that's like the way we just know, like, they don't turn the ball over. So now we're getting into the turnovers. So this is going to be a challenge for the Chiefs. They've struggled all season long. They have won 14 games this season, but their
Mm-hmm.
turnover differential was -3 on the season. Only 9 teams in the entire NFL were worse than that on the season. And also, the other 3 remaining teams in the playoffs, their turnover differential rating is the Bengals are +6, 49ers are +13, Eagles are +8, and now here you have the Chiefs who are -3. So they have definitely got to find ways to get turnovers, I think, in this game,
Mm-hmm.
especially with the injury to Mahomes. So good field position, getting some turnovers, and here's the last one, 80%.
Yep.
This one is a little bit vague, but this is why I feel like this is the part of me that's leaning towards the Chiefs is this
Mm-hmm.
statistic right here. 80%. Okay. This is the amount in percentage wise of games Patrick Mahomes has won since he started his career. 80% of his games. So that's 4 out of every 5 games that have gone
Mm-hmm.
Mahomes in the Chiefs' way, which is remarkable when you think about that. Every
Yeah.
4 out of every 5 in his whole career. Are you kidding me? So the Bengals have won 3 in a row against Kansas City. And now I'm basically wondering, okay, statistically, okay, what are the odds that it happens again against the
Yeah.
Mahomes that wins 80% of his games? Like, I almost feel like because they've won the last 3 in a row, it might not be a good thing heading into this game because it's almost like, do you really think it's going to happen 4 times in a row against Mahomes and the Chiefs? Um, and that's just if you just go off statistics, like there's not another team in the league that actually has his number. Like
Yeah.
nobody has like winning streaks against the Chiefs. It's only the Bengals. They're all alone.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wonder about that. It's basic statistics, but if you have a quarterback that wins 80% of his games, what are the odds that one team beats him 4 times in a row? It doesn't seem like it would be that high. So I'm looking at the tight end, Travis Kelce. He had 14 catches last week. I
Mm-hmm.
think he's going to have a big game.
Oh yeah.
If you look at the Chiefs game that they had in the AFC Championship last year, the Chiefs got off to a good start. And then in the second half, they took their foot off the gas. And Mahomes said it countless times. He took all the blame. There was just no urgency. Like they started, if they would have played the second half the way they played the first half, I think things would have gone better. So I do think if you're a Chiefs fan, the key here is for the Chiefs to get off to a quick lead, just start the game pretty fast and
Yeah.
and just try to hold that lead and keep the foot on the gas all throughout the whole game. So here's one last thing I'll mention is Travis Kelce, 14 catches. And I wrote down somewhere in here,
Hmm.
but I'm not going to go looking for it. But Kelce, I believe he had like 8 catches when he played the Bengals in the regular season this game.
Hmm.
So Kelce is going to be one of those guys he's a game changer. He can
Oh
get
yeah.
in, yeah, he can get in the space. He can have another 14 catch game. And if you look at, so I looked up, okay, how do the Bengals fare against tight ends? Well, they're the 4th best in fantasy points to tight ends, which translates to like real performance. Like it sounds like a joke, like
Hmm.
fantasy, but it's like it really is a good translation to how effective a person is on the field. So the
Hmm.
Bengals have been pretty good at shutting down tight ends all season long.
Hmm.
Um, and this is the last thing I'll mention. The last 3 times the Bengals have played the Chiefs have been the favorite. They were the favorite. They were road favorites against the Bengals in week 13. That was this year's. They
Hmm.
were favored by 2.5 points and they were in Cincinnati. Um, they were favorites in the 2022 AFC Championship game. So they were 2.5 favorites in that one. And they were, I think, they were 7-point favorites in their first matchup that they
Yeah.
played each other. So right now, the Bengals being the favorite for the first time, I don't know, everything seems backwards. It's just
Yeah.
like everything seems like the way that it was working was underdog mentality. You beat him 3 times in a row. Are you going to be able to beat him 4 times in a row? Are you going to be able to
Well,
beat him 4 times in a row on the road
mm,
and not an underdog anymore? Like these are
well,
things I'm worried.
and to kind of, I guess, rebuttal that comment too, because I still feel like there is still some sort of um like non-belief, I guess I would say, in the Bengals. Now with Mahomes kind of being hurt, right? Like I'm sure maybe more people are leaning towards that. And of course, and now they're favored, right? Like it shows. Like Vegas is like, yo, they are favored even on the road. But I still feel like the Bengals still feel like they have something to prove. And in this game, in beating the Chiefs, they're not like they don't have that mentality of like, yeah, we're coming to play the Chiefs, like whatever, we're going into the Super Bowl next week, right, or something like that. I still think there's something to prove for them in this game. And even though, like you said, everything seems backwards, they're favorites, the Chiefs look like the worst team in a way, right? Like I still think that the Bengals are like, no, we're not going to go into this game with that, like, yep, we're the favorites who should win. I think they're going to go into this with that chip on their shoulder of, we still have to win a Super Bowl. We still have to prove something to the NFL. We still have to tell everyone, hey, we are not only the new kids in town, but we're going to be here for a while. So I think that
Yeah.
mentality, that I don't think that mentality hasn't changed, right? And going into this game, you said everything was backwards, and it is, but I just don't think they kind of think of it in a backwards way.
Yeah, it seems I agree with that. And that's part of the problem with getting too deep in analytics is
Yeah.
sometimes you have to take a step back and say like what is the perspective from the Bengals though?
Mhm.
Which ultimately is the common denominator here. It
Mhm.
doesn't matter what the media says. All that matters is what is the Bengals' approach and attitude. And like if the Bengals were like, yeah, the Chiefs don't have a chance and they were being really arrogant, like then you could be like, hey, maybe this is, not going to go in their favor. But they seem to have that same underdog approach that they've always had because everybody knows that, Mahomes and Arrowhead is always going to be favorited. And the
Yeah.
fact that he's hurt and they
Mhm.
have one of the worst defenses in the league
Mhm.
and they're a 1-point favorite, honestly, to me, that is disrespectful. Like, why would you have a team with a quarterback that's not going to be mobile? He's playing hurt, and then one of the worst defenses in the league, and you just beat the shit out of Buffalo in Buffalo. Like,
Yeah.
you just
Yeah.
dominated them. Like, there was not like, they pulled ahead. Like, that whole game was just an ass whooping.
Yeah.
And now you're a 1-point favorite. It's like, dude, that's still disrespectful. And that's why I'm picking the Bengals too. And we'll
Yeah.
talk more later. I'm really excited about what this
Yep.
kind of means for 2 years in a row, Burrow to best Mahomes in Arrowhead. And I can't wait for that. But that's all I got
Yeah.
on this one.
That's Yeah, and I do just want to say, for Mahomes, as far as the updates for him, he did practice all day on Wednesday. So he practiced. He said he's been focusing on rehab, on film study, on just doing all that stuff. And I think one of the most important things is we talked about it, and you had mentioned it. Mahomes was like maybe like top of the league, or like top 5 or something, in like time to throw the ball, but that was due to his ability to get out of like pressure and be able to get outside the pocket, set it, plant his feet, whatever, throw the ball, make those throws. But now with this high ankle sprain, and you said it yourself, you've had a high ankle sprain and you're like, what the fuck? This hurts. I'm hobbling.
But low, apparently low ankle sprain is what I had. That's like the severe one.
Okay. So the high one that he has isn't necessarily as bad.
No, there's no way he could play. And I'm not just saying that. I couldn't crawl when I had mine on my hands and knees, just from the weight of it hanging behind. Yeah.
Yeah. And that is important in the sense that if he's not able to, if his offensive line is not able to give him that much time, which is the time they put him at the top of the league, or give him enough time for his wide receivers to get open, that is when you start to rush him, when you start to blitz him. And I think one of the key things in this game for the Chiefs to even have like a better chance, even as underdogs, a better chance to win, is Isaiah Pacheco, Jerick McKinnon. These guys need to step up in the rush game, because if they see that Mahomes is unable to pass the ball, or is maybe, unable to get plays developed in order to pass the ball deep, the rushing game has to be there. And yeah, sure, you can say, well, then they just need to stop the run, and, they're one-dimensional again. It's like, yeah, probably, but you mentioned them earlier. Travis Kelce is literally always a weapon. That O-line will do what the Bengals did last week. They were out 3 of 5 of their starters on the O-line, and they were still able to give Burrow all the time he needed to give that rush game a huge boost. If you don't think that this Chiefs team is not willing to do that, willing to kind of give it their all, in the AFC Conference Championship game, then you guys, if you don't believe that, you don't understand what competition, what sports competition is, because these guys will go out of their way to do anything to make sure they win and move on to the Super Bowl. So I think the rushing game is going to have to improve. And again, Kelce is going to have to continue to be that big playmaker for the Chiefs, because again, if Holmes can't move out of the pocket like he has been, it's going to be a tough day for him trying to get out of the pocket and do the things that he's been doing all season.
Well, I'll just add one more thing to that. I think that I have a little bit different game plan, because if you look at the ESPN has this on the NFL, it says top 10 offensive guard pass block win rate. Number 1, Joe Thuney, 99%. Number 4, Trey Smith, 96%. So that's the highest pass block win rate. Those are 2 offensive guards for the Chiefs. And then if you look at top center pass block win rate, Creed Humphrey, their center, is number 1, 98%. So 1, 2,
Mahomes, the blind side, really.
Yeah, Mahomes being rushed to throw is literally him just taking so much time. It's not even about like, hey, like the blocking wasn't good. It's just like they do backyard football, so it's like everybody runs their route. And for a normal offense, like you got first read, second read, third read, throw it. For the Chiefs, it's like first read, second read, third read, don't love it. Run around, spin around, and then hit a receiver when he's just running, something that's not even in the route. It just turns into backyard football. I think the Chiefs are going to have to kind of have some structure in this game. Like, hey, we're not going to be able to run around and play backyard football. Let's actually do like Mike Shanahan and let's draw up plays to get guys open so Mahomes can stay in the pocket, because this offensive line will give him time. This is a great offensive line. And when you look at the pass rush win rate, the Bengals don't have a guy in the top 10. So I do think Mahomes is going to have time. Chris Jones is actually number 1 for defensive tackles.
Yeah, he's really good.
He's really good. But pass rush win rate, you do have one Bengal, Trey Hendrickson. It goes Micah Parsons, Hassam Reddick, Myles Garrett, Trey Hendrickson for the Bengals. So look for Trey Hendrickson to be the guy that's disrupting Patrick Mahomes. And then you talk about running the ball. Well, if you look at defensive end outside linebacker run stop win rate, number 5, Sam Hubbard.
He's so good.
He's so good. He's the guy that took the ball and ran it.
Yeah.
The bully from Michigan.
What a game that was.
Yeah. So he's going to be your guy for run stopping, and then Hendrickson's going to be your pass rush guy. But I would say Mahomes just needs to kind of let that backyard football stuff go and just do like Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy. Like, stay in the pocket, go through your reads. And this is kind of the true test of quarterback. Like, Mahomes kind of, I don't want to say, like, it's not a discredit him that he has to roll out and play backyard football, but can he just stay in the pocket and make his reads and deliver a ball? Does it always have to be all of these extra theatrics, or can he just play quarterback like, a pocket quarterback would, like a Peyton Manning would, just for a game because he's not healthy? And I think it's going to be an interesting thing to see. I don't think, personally, I think he can't help himself. I think he's going to run around anyway. In his nature.
But that's kind of like, if I'm Andy Reid, man, like that's kind of what I'm afraid of. I don't want him to make it worse. But I mean, these guys go through, like, when we're talking rehab for these guys' injury, we're talking like hours of rehab.
Lasers, freaking
lasers, man. We're talking millions of dollars invested in these players. They're gonna get the best at all times, whenever they want. Like it's just, that's what it is. I don't know, man. It's gonna be a hell of a game. It is gonna be such a good game. So I can't wait to do that stream with you, Kyle. That's gonna be fun.
It's going to be amazing.
It is.
Amazing.
And we have a good plan for the games on Sunday. So everybody definitely tune in to see what Kyle and I have cooked up for that Sunday, conference championship Sunday.
And that's going to be the second game of Sunday. There's an earlier game that's going to kick off for us at noon, 3:00 East Coast, Colorado, 2:00, wherever you're at. We'll all see it at the same time, and that's the 49ers taking on the Philadelphia Eagles, and we got ourselves a pretty good ball game.
It hurts so good.
I was going to say, with defense that physical, it's going to hurt. Somebody's going to have to win this game.
We're fucking nerds. Oh, my God.
I know, we are. I've been thinking a lot about this game, and I'm gonna tell you something. When I watched the Eagles play that game, I was like, who's going to beat them? They got the best pass deep. Like, we talked about it.
Yeah,
I could go on and on.
Yeah.
They are so good. And Jalen Hurts is, in my opinion, already a top 5 quarterback. And he is.
Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he passes the eyeball test. You put the game on, and he's the best player on the field every week. So it's like, that's when you have an elite quarterback. It's like, hey, who's that guy that keeps making all these plays? And then when you think something's going to go wrong, he uses his legs and gets out of it. And then he's also a very good pocket quarterback. Like, he doesn't just run like Lamar a lot. And I think Lamar can be a good pocket quarterback sometimes. but
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of times where you feel like throwing is secondary for him.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't get those vibes with Jalen Hurts. I feel like running is secondary for Jalen Hurts. Besides the design, there's over 100 plays that are in a package to design Jalen Hurts to run the ball. And this is why we say, look, offenses, I don't want to say quarterback is all going to be like this one day, but I do think we're getting closer to the point where every quarterback's going to have to be like Jalen Hurts, Justin Fields, Lamar Jackson, like
Athletic. Yeah.
yeah, just a different style. We're in a different era. Like you got
Yeah.
100 plays. Sirianni's got 100 effing plays for
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Hurts to run the ball. That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
And if you watched last week, I even said it on the live stream. I was like, you know what they haven't done? They haven't pulled it yet. And
Mm-hmm.
what's so dangerous about Hurts is when you snap the ball in shotgun and you got linebackers on the other side and you do this run play right here where the running back's going to run and you go like this. The fact that you could pull it and run it yourself
Mm-hmm.
keeps everybody frozen on the field. So with like Peyton Manning, he could do that and you could just attack, right? You swarm to the ball.
Yeah. You know
But
he's
when
not going
you
to run it.
yeah, but when you can pull it, you keep everybody honest in that 1-2 seconds that they're sitting there frozen. That is like those are huge moments in football. Like when you hesitate, you lose in football. You always
Yeah.
have to be like very reactionary and
Yep.
it causes you to freeze. It's the same thing with zone coverage. Like you got people running a zone and they have to respect Hurts, and then all of a sudden the tight end gets the ball. It's like, damn
Yeah.
it. I was sure.
Or I was going to say, or you have a guy who's spying the quarterback. That takes a defender away from any of the receivers, the tight end, the running back. You dump it off. All of a sudden, it's a 10, 15-yard gain. And
Yeah.
again, like you said, it's like you have to be reactionary, but you also have to respect the game, but you also got to do this. It's just a lot.
It is. It's a lot for a defense. And because of that, I pretty much all week was like, you know what? The 49ers story is pretty cool, but it's coming to an end.
Mm.
And I think the Eagles story is the one coming to an end.
Oh my God. Oh
I
no.
I I gotta be honest about this. This was not easy for me. And
Mm.
the reason I'm picking the 49ers is because I do believe that the 49ers are battle tested.
Yeah.
They have gone up against elite teams like even the Dolphins when they were good. The
Mm.
49ers absolutely crushed them.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at the Eagles and I have one question. Rick, who have they played that has a defense even similar to what they're about to play?
Yeah, that's true.
I did it for you. Okay, there was two.
Nobody.
They played the Cardinals twice,
Okay.
and they ended
I
up
mean,
with or no, I'm in the Commanders. Sorry,
oh, Commanders.
the
Okay, okay, okay.
Commanders. I think they were 7th overall at the end of the season. Guess how much
Well,
points they scored against the Commanders?
uh, 30?
20 and 21.
Oh, okay, 41 points.
The Vikings had a bad defense, but they were when they played the Vikings, the Vikings had a better defense. They scored
Mm-hmm.
24. The
Mm-hmm.
Cardinals had an okay defense. They scored 21, and then the Cowboys obviously probably the better defense, and they
Yeah.
got 26 points. It's just look, all I'm saying is you can't know what you don't know. And for the Eagles, when you go down their schedule, it's kind
Mm-hmm.
of like the Purdy thing, right? It was like, oh
Mm-hmm.
my God, he's 7-8-0 since he took over. And it's like, yeah, he played Seattle twice. He played, you go down the list. You're like, he played the
I
Commanders.
Yeah, the Cowboys is probably the closest, like you said, the closest good, like really good defense. And I mean, they played them twice. They lost once, but they also scored 34 points on them. And then what was it? 26 was the other time, like 26 and a win. Like
Yeah.
so yeah, so that's probably the best defense. To answer your question, that's probably the best defense they've played.
Well, I mean, they're the number one defense. So, like, it was almost like you had
Mm-hmm.
no way to answer it because it's like they can't play a better defense. But my concern is, look, we're sitting here struggling. I'm talking about the Cardinals and Vikings. I'm struggling to find a real defense that they played.
Mm-hmm.
And we're for the Eagles, we're 19 games or 18 games into the season, which
Yeah.
means like they've been able to just torch people all season. They didn't have to play the Broncos and some of these like defenses that are good. Even teams that were bad like Denver, their defense was solid. So I look at the teams they played, and if you go down the list, it's not impressive. And I do think Philadelphia will overcome that. I do. I think they're going to overcome the challenges because they have a great team,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think they're just going to go and like mop the floor with the 49ers. I think they're going to get into the middle of the game and be like, shit, nothing works like it normally does. You know what I mean? Like we're
Yeah.
trying to run the ball and that's not working. And then we're doing the Hurts thing and they had a good plan for that. And it's just
Yeah.
like, it's going to be one of those grinder moments, I think, where it's
Yeah.
like, look, like we just have to trust the process. Like the 49ers last week, the running game was not working. And then what happened on the last drive before it went into the fourth quarter? They went on a long running drive because Shanahan's like, hey, man, it'll work at some point.
Mm.
The Eagles, I wonder if they're going to be able to stay true to their craft in the moments of adversity that they haven't faced this season
Mm-hmm.
and not hit the panic button and be like, hey, man, we got to do something. Like it's not working, right? Can they show the poise and the calmness at home in front of their own crowd to not sound the alarm when they're in a close ball game? But we know the 49ers can because they just did it last week. They played
Yeah.
the Cowboys, and you can say, oh, it's the Cowboys. Maybe the Cowboys were supposed to win that game, and maybe the Cowboys would have beat the Eagles. Like, we don't know really how good the Cowboys were playing last week. All we know is the
Mm-hmm.
Cowboys played, I considered one of the best teams in the league. They played a very close game. So I'm
Yep.
going to say the Cowboys did play a good game. Dak Prescott lost it for them.
Mm.
But I do think this helps the 49ers moving into this week. They went against Micah Parsons all last week. Like they had to go against Schultz last week. You know, now they're going to be going against Gooder. Look, I do think it's going to be a really close game. But I'm worried about the lack of strength that Jalen Hurts has gone against this week. And you almost wish he would have gotten like just a couple more of those, like, Denver games under his belt for me to look at. But I go through and I'll tell you really quick. These are some of the teams that they've played this week.
Yeah.
Or this year. Sorry. So obviously in their division, they played the Cowboys twice.
Mm-hmm.
They played the Commanders twice, and they played. Dude, why is it so hard to find their schedule? I hate Bing. I hate everything that's not Google. It's like
everything else sucks except Google. Google sponsor us.
Yeah, Google is so easy. You just Google a team, and then you can hit more games.
Yeah.
I'm on Bing, and it's like bringing up all this weird stuff, and I'm like trying not to panic. All right, here we go. I Googled it. They played the Lions, who the Lions had a good defense, right? The Lions had a pretty good defense, and you look here, they scored 38 to 35. Now, that was a close game. The Vikings had a pretty decent, by this time, it was week 2, 24 points. Commanders, okay, Jags, Cardinals, Cowboys, Steelers, Texans, Commanders, Colts, Packers, Titans, Giants, Bears, Cowboys, Saints.
Not wrong.
The Aints, and they held.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, man. Like they got the Saints in here, and then the Giants, and then obviously they blew up the. But like, where's the battle test? Where is the game where you look at and you're like, the Eagles have played a defense that resembles the 49ers, and I know that they can, take this game. Are you worried about this defensive thing that I see? Because it would really suck for the one test to come in the most important moment to find out, shit, we were not ready for the 49ers. And I could see people sleeping on the Niners. They're not favored to win this game. And I could see the Niners coming in here, being physical. And look, I think Hurts is going to be great, but he's also in his second year. This is his second year. Like, he has a lot to learn, maybe. And maybe this is not a wasted season, but a great, tremendous growth. And
Mhm.
maybe he's like, you know what, I know what to be ready for going into next season. So like, what do you think about the Niners?
I'm listening to that. Yes, there's a lot of good points there. And before I get to my points, I do want to get to the comments here because we got some good amount of people here. I got my mom in the comments. Ma, hello, cheers. We've
Cheers.
also we've also got Bill. Bill logged into work and needed some entertainment. I'm glad you're here, Bill. Cheers. And we got some guys joining us here from Twitch, chairman of the board. Hey guys, how's it going? It's going good, man. Kyle, you got another fellow Packers fan in Milwaukee's best
Nice.
here. We got Action Lab in the chat, and we got Scotty A. Smith as well. So we appreciate you guys here talking football and the divisional. The conference championship. I like the points you made. What I will say is the 49ers struggled against the Cowboys. They struggled against the Cowboys, and that was a very good defense. So when you look at that, when you look at what Brock Purdy did, and he had somewhat, and I'm not going to say I called it because they won the game. I expected Brock Purdy to have a human rookie quarterback moment and be like, I'm going to lose the game. He lost it. He didn't. He went out there. He did good enough to get his game and to get his team in field goal range, to get his team in range for a touchdown from McCaffrey. Like, he did enough to get them that win, right? And at the end, Dak Prescott, for like the third year in a row, fucked his team over and lost it too, right? I think I believe both of those things can be true. Now, when we talk about the Eagles, the defenses that they've faced the Cowboys twice, while the Cowboys' defense was a top unit. The Commanders, I'm not sure how top of a unit they were, but they were good.
I think there were 7.
There were 7. Okay, so they're at least a top 10 unit for sure. They're a good defensive unit for sure. So they did definitely have some competition. They lost to the Commanders at their first loss of the season, right?
And that was the best defense they played up to that point.
Oh, well, I think did they play the Cowboys before? I think they beat the Cowboys beforehand. So I think they, they
without Dak,
Yeah. And I think during one of those games, unless I can't remember exactly when they played the Lions, because the Lions
week 1.
Oh, so it was only week 1. Yeah, dude, that Lions team, I think the only thing that helped that Lions team that week was the offense, because their defense was absolute garbage, and it was up until like about 7 weeks left in the season. So I won't necessarily give the Lions credit for that, but
yeah, they were trash in the beginning.
Yeah, they were fucking garbage. So what I will say again, Eagles definitely had some tests during the season, but I think I actually have the Eagles winning this one. I have the Eagles winning this game against Brock Purdy and the 49ers. And I don't want to, these two games are like two of the best conference championship games since, like, we're talking like Brady, Peyton Manning, Roethlisberger, and then whoever the NFC had up, right? Like Drew Brees and whoever else was there at the time, right? Like, when we're talking about, yeah, and it's a new era, it really is, because at that era, defense was huge as well. But I got the Eagles winning this one, and I think it is because of Brock Purdy's play. I think Brock Purdy, again, kind of, he did good enough last week to get his team in range, like I was saying, but against this defense, who is the top defense in the Eagles defense, they're going to definitely get to him too. They're going to make Brock Purdy look not as poised as he has looked in these past few games. The last, 7-8 games that he's played, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that sounded like the longest yard when he's like, he makes fast people look not fast.
This defense makes poised people look not poised. So I've got a feeling that this Eagles defense, which is the top unit in the league, right, is going to make Purdy look bad. Now, look, again, we talked about the week they were going against the Cowboys, the 49ers. Oh, well, yeah, even if Brock Purdy doesn't have a good game, which he had probably a slightly above average, if not an average game, what did we mention? We mentioned McCaffrey, we mentioned Kittle, we mentioned Debo, we mentioned this guy, Ayuk, all these guys making these plays. And for the most part, you look at that Kittle catch and that McCaffrey touchdown, those were huge, right? This offense for the San Francisco 49ers has so many weapons that they can absolutely make a difference. In this game, I don't know, man. The Eagles defense has gone against quite a few good offenses. Talking about the Lions at the beginning when they, barely outscored them, 39-35 or something like that. The Cowboys, a few of the other teams they've gone against, like they've gone up against some good offenses and they have held. And even though I think that the NFL and to win in these playoffs in the NFL today, you need that offensive like prowess almost.
Yeah.
This defense is definitely going to be probably one of the difference makers. I think when it comes to this game, it's like which defense is playing better, right? And in my opinion, it's going to be the Eagles defense because they're going to make Brock Purdy look not poised. They make poised players look not poised. So I'm thinking the Eagles in this one. And I again, it's really going to come down to the defenses because look how Brock Purdy struggled against a top defensive unit in the Cowboys last week, right? That's going to make a huge difference.
Yeah, and also another thing you got to look at is how did the Commanders win? And
Mm-hmm.
I think they were just able to get a lot of turnovers. Now, a couple of the turnovers in that game were just the receivers fumbling the ball. Like there was some mental mistakes definitely involved in there, but let's be real, okay? We're talking about the Commanders. Like they were not a good team. Like they're not the 49ers,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
So, we can only use them for an example because it was, one of the better defenses that they played, but Brock Purdy with his weapons, I mean, if they're able to get any turnovers, they're probably going to, be able to capitalize them better than the Commanders were. And the
Yeah.
Commanders were still able to. I just think when you look at the schedule, it's alarming that
Mm-hmm.
they aren't really a battle tested team. And I said the same thing about the 49ers going into that game. I was like, I'm worried about the Niners. Like they haven't played anybody since Purdy took over besides the Dolphins,
Yeah. Yeah. Really.
But now they have. And Dallas's defense was no joke, and Purdy
Mm-hmm.
was able,
Mm-hmm.
when it mattered, to just stay with the program and run the ball. And look, who do you trust more, Kyle Shanahan or Nick Sirianni?
Ooh, that's a good question. I look, and it's about like who's been in the league longer, I guess, for me. So it would be Kyle Shanahan, but I don't think it's that simple. I don't think it could be like which coach can you
No,
rely
no,
on more
not
because
not like that's my bottom line. I'm
yeah, yeah, yeah.
just something to think about.
Yeah, for sure. And then I would lean more towards Kyle Shanahan because he has been doing this longer and he does come from and this is such a like ESPN fucking thing to say, but he comes from a good coaching tree of talent. So it's easy to do that. But the things Nick Sirianni's been able to do for what 2 years now, because I think he's been the coach for the Eagles for 2 years. It's just it's impressive. It's impressive what he's done. So I would lean more towards Kyle Shanahan, but I am very impressed with what Sirianni's done with the Eagles.
Okay, and let me just leave with this stat, okay?
Mm-hmm.
We knew that the Tennessee Titans, they had the best rush defense only by 14 yards to the 49ers. But
Mm-hmm.
they both averaged 3.4 yards per carry because the Titans had one extra carry. So I mean, very similar when it comes to that. Um we talked about how good the pass defense is for the Eagles, number 1. But
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to running the football, and we know Debo Samuel, even last week against the Cowboys, when McCaffrey couldn't get going,
Mm-hmm.
when they weren't able to really do anything, Debo was still averaging like 8 yards per carry.
Mm-hmm.
So you have such unlimited amount of weapons and ways you can run the ball, and the Eagles are ranked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16th. in rushing defense, and they
Mhm.
give up 4.6 yards per carry. So that is it? Do you think that's I mean, their D line has dogs on the D
Mhm.
line.
Yeah.
Every single player has more than 10 sacks on their
Mhm.
defensive line, which is they're the only team like that. So it was kind of weird to see that they're 16th on stopping the run, but they're very good at getting after the quarterback. So what if the way the 49ers are going to go about this is just running the shit out of the football? And that could be their answer. And then when they're all trying to stop the run, that's when all of a sudden you start picking them apart with George Kittle
Yeah.
and Debo, or lining up McCaffrey in the slot and doing a slant. We've seen that a couple times. So I just wanted to say, after the 49ers or after the Eagles won that game, I
Mhm.
was under the impression that there's no way anybody is going to be able to beat this team. And the more I sat and thought about it, I realized that that was very reactionary of me to
Mhm.
think that. And to take a step back and look at the weapons the Niners have, I don't look, I'm picking them to win,
Mhm.
but if the Eagles won, I would not be shocked.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I also don't feel like I would have to, like eat my words or anything, because I do see like these are really good teams. It's just going to be really about who has the better game plan. And it sounds very cliche, but it's going to matter who has
Yeah.
a better game plan and who executes better, because they're both, if they're coached well, you wouldn't expect a lot of turnovers, but the 49ers have a good turnover differential. We mentioned it. It's what is the turnover differential?
Uh,
Plus 13, right?
+13. Yeah.
So the
Mhm.
Eagles are +8, the Bengals are +6, Kansas City -3, and then 49ers are +13. It's like, holy shit, that's a big jump.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like, if the 49ers are able to get a couple possessions, steal a couple possessions, they're playing really good, they're running the ball, they're taking time off the clock, Hurts is on the
Mhm.
sideline. I don't know. I think it's gonna be a close game,
Mhm.
but I'm gonna take Niners, and I'm also gonna take it to come down to the very end of the game.
Okay. Okay. Not I can't argue against that because, like I said, these two games, these conference championship games are so good. And real quick before we go on, let me give a quick shout out here to Action Lab. Got Philly -2.5 in this game, and BW Falk 82. It's got Chiefs 27,
It's
Bengals.
actually fuck.
It's actually Fokker. Chiefs 27, Bengals 17, and he's got the 49ers winning 19-17. What a score that is. And then chairman of the board is saying, shout out to @Action Lab. Thanks for the raid. So actually, Action Lab, we appreciate you getting us some people here for the raid. Go follow them on Twitch @Action Lab. And
Thank
then
you.
yeah, thank you, man. Action Lab, thank you, whoever you are or you guys are. We appreciate it. And then Bill saying, weren't both coaches up for Coach of the Year? I think they were. Sirianni and I know Kyle Shanahan for sure. Nick Sirianni definitely has to be up for it too. So I'm pretty sure they are both up there, Bill. Man, I was gonna say something about what you just said, and then I had to get to the comments just because.
I think it was close games. I think it's going to be a close game,
Yeah,
a grinder. Maybe I'm just trying to spark
yeah,
something here.
yeah. I think so. Ugh, I can't even remember. But like I said, these two games are going to be so good. I think it was more of like, this is what I was going to say. I think with the fact that Kyle Shanahan knows what you're saying, the hi Penguin Goats.
Just saying
uh,
hi.
Hello. With the fact that Kyle Shanahan, because the Eagles are middle of the pack as far as stopping the run. Kyle Shanahan knows that he's going to try to exploit that. I think Nick Sirianni also knows that they're middle of the pack rushing. So I don't think I think for the most part, Nick Sirianni is gonna like prepare for that, right? It's like, I know that you know that I know that you know that we know, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like that whole like mind battle where he knows that he's going to try to exploit that run defense and try to get as much done on the run with McCaffrey, with Elijah Mitchell, with Debo if he needs to. So I think he knows that their defense isn't that great against the run, but I'm positive Nick Sirianni is going to have something to rebuttal that. He's not going to put all his eggs in one basket as far as the run. Open up Kittle, open up Ayuk, open up these guys, everyone, all the weapons, right? Debo. I think he's going to play it smart. And you know, for me, I think the Eagles go to the Super Bowl this year, man. And that's kind of as simple as I think it's going to be, as the Eagles go, because they're going to make Brock Purdy come down to earth a little bit, you know, a little bit more, just like he came to, you know, back down to earth against the Cowboys. They're going to do a little bit more this time and come out with a win. Although I think kind of like, who was it? BW Falk said 1917 49ers. I think I'm going to go 2017 Eagles on this one.
Okay. So keeping it close. So you did have that question about Coach of the Year. So the finalists are Brian Daboll, Kyle Shanahan, and Doug Peterson. So Nick Sirianni, you could say that it was stolen from him, but obviously Doug Peterson, what he did, Kyle Shanahan with three quarterbacks, and Brian Daboll. I mean, it's a good problem that there's a lot of coaches that you feel like should be up for it. I think that's good for the league.
And if Sirianni goes to the Super Bowl and wins it, fuck Coach of the Year, dude. You just won the Super Bowl. Like, I'll take that any day. You know?
Yeah, I think no, I won't say it. Sirianni, does it seem like he's a little juiced up on the sideline? Like,
he's got the smelling salts. Oh yeah. I believe it for sure.
So we always try to like give some little like fun tidbits of information on this podcast. So Sirianni is a native of Jamestown, New York. So he grew up in the New York-Pennsylvania border, about 70 miles south of Buffalo. And he was raised in a football family. His father, Fran, had 45 years coaching career and was inducted into the Chautauqua Sports Hall of Fame. That may be a Native American brand football Hall of Fame. I'm not sure. It sounds Native American.
It might just be like the area or the city or like the county, something like that.
That's you know, what it's called. Wisconsin has a lot of Native American roots. That's why like Wauwatosa, you know,
Waukesha.
The athletic complex, Nick. I was just wondering, like, where did he come from? His older brothers were also coaches. Their names are Washington and Jeffrey and Jay Sirianni, and they won 2 state championships for like high schools and stuff like that. He played Division III football at Mount Union. He was a wide receiver. He won national championships in 2000, 2001, 2002, and started for 3 seasons. And it doesn't really say like how he got in the NFL, but it's kind of a cool story because his brothers are coaching high school football and he makes it to the big leagues. He coached wide receiver at Indiana University before his big break came, and he joined the Kansas City Chiefs as a quality control coach. And that was the bottom of the coaching ladder. And then he got pretty much boosted to wide receivers coach for Andy Reid. And that staff was fired when Andy Reid took over. So Sirianni found a landing spot in San Diego that turned into coaching quarterbacks from 2014 to 15 as Frank Reich was promoted from quarterbacks coach to offensive coordinator. So like, this is so cool about coaching. Like, no offense to what's his name that took over for the Colts.
Jeff Saturday.
Jeff Saturday, but man, I can respect that. Just climbing that ladder, you know, from like, you know, started from the bottom, like truly.
And I love that like football guys to their core are the ones coming into the league, taking teams like the Eagles, the Giants, the 49ers, like all these teams, and like taking them to the championship. Like, obviously that's been a thing since like the NFL was a thing, since it became a thing. But it's just like, it's so cool to like hear the stories of like Sirianni played high school football, then went to college, and then did Indiana wide receiver coach, and then he became a quality control. And he, like you said, climbing the ladder, grinding, making those like sacrifices, because at the end of it, look where you're at now, Sirianni. You're coaching the Eagles in the conference championship. Like it's just so cool.
Yeah, and he seems pretty young. He's 39 years old.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah,
Well,
climbed it
he's
pretty quick.
not Sean McVay young, but yeah.
Yeah. But
Real
yeah.
I was gonna say real quick. Let me get to Penguin Goat's comment here. So Packers beat the Bears twice. Also, if you did not see, I'm a Packers fan. What's up with all these Packer fans getting in here?
Dude, I
I
told
don't
you
know what
that's
it is.
America's team. I don't know why. I think it's because you're a
There's
Bears fan. Dude, everywhere in Florida where I live, there was a Packers bar down the street. Like a
oh my
literal
god.
like cheese bar. Not cheese, like cheese heads.
Yeah, cheesehead bar. Yeah,
But they would play the games and the music, and the owner was from Wisconsin. Like Packers are a global brand. I mean, look at Lil
yeah,
Wayne is a huge
yeah,
fan.
yeah. That's true.
But he just kind of disavowed Aaron Rodgers on his
Yeah, he
Twitter.
did
So
diss him. He did.
yeah. But yeah, dude, they're everywhere.
Yeah. Real quick, I just want to take this time to again thank everybody for joining the stream here. Only Football. We're talking conference championship weekend. If you're joining us from YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, like the page of Star 6 Media, hit the little bell for notifications. That way you can get notifications whenever we go live. And we just, we're football guys. All we're gonna do is talk football. And yes, we might
Football
get some
only.
takes wrong, but I mean, yeah, only balls of the foot. That's all we talk about here on Only Football. So, yeah, give us that like, give us that follow, hit that those notifications. Did you have anything else on the conference championship weekend before we move on, Kyle?
No, that's all I got. But to summarize, we both got Bengals, and then you're going Eagles, and I'm going Brock Hard Purdy. That's why I wore the shirt. I had to wear the shirt.
Brock Hard.
It's like, look, if I'm gonna take the Niners, I got to put the shirt on. So
that's true. That is true. All right, well, let's move on to our next segment. And this is a segment we're going to just simply call Most Important QB. And basically what we're talking about here is which quarterback between Brock Purdy, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, or Jalen Hurts cannot have a bad day at the office on Sunday. Which quarterback is the most important to their team this conference championship Sunday? I've got a couple ideas, but Kyle, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll say for me it's Patrick Mahomes because you look at the Niners number 1 defense, the Eagles number 2 number 1 passing defense, and then the Bengals number 3 in points allowed, and then you see the Chiefs 27, 29, 31. Like Mahomes is the Chiefs. And I think it's hard to argue that. Like the success the Chiefs have, a lot of it belongs to Andy Reid because you even saw with the backup quarterback, he went in a 98-yard drive. Honestly, though, let's just take a minute to give that guy more credit. Chad Henne literally came into the game cold and took the team on a 98-yard drive and then took his helmet off for the day. Like that is just kind of like some like cool shit.
He's like, I'm sore.
Yeah. He's like, all right, Mahomes, go get him. But yeah, I do think that a lot of that goes to Andy Reid and just the greatness of him. But I do think when you look at how some of these defenses are carrying the other team, like offense is having a bad game, defense steps up. I don't think you really get that from the Chiefs. Even though I do think they stepped up pretty big in the divisional round with Jacksonville, because like Jacksonville's defense was doing what they needed, but then the Chiefs defense stood up, which is pretty cool. But I think just the numbers tell me that won't be the case again. So I think it's Mahomes that has to really go out there and do what he's been doing all season. And that's why they have 14 wins on the year. And they're going to need him to play like that to get into the Super Bowl.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. And again, with the injury, it's definitely like one thing for sure where it's like you can't have a bad day, especially being now a pocket quarterback instead of like that whole like backyard football thing they play. And again, Mahomes it can be a pocket quarterback if needed. It's just with the injury, it now just becomes an even bigger factor, an even bigger spotlight on what he does inside the pocket. So for me, the most important quarterback that cannot have a bad day on Sunday is going to be Brock Purdy. And it's mostly because, again, Brock Hard, baby, Brock Hard, love it. Is because he can easily, and I don't want to say easily, but there is the big possibility that he makes a mistake, throws an interception, has a sack strip
No, no,
or
no, no,
strip
no, no,
sack.
no, 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 no.
You know what I mean? Like, and
Yeah.
at that moment, it just becomes, oh fuck, now I gotta play catch up in a sense, right? Because we've seen quarterbacks do that, whether they are rookies, whether they are third year in the league, whether they're 7 year in the league. It's just it becomes what's the word I'm looking for? That
Uh,
a
like
sense of
down to earth,
urgency
sense of urgency. Okay,
sense of
okay.
urgency to kind of make up for what that mistake, and then that becomes like, okay, yeah, you're playing with a sense of urgency now, but that may or may not make you prone to more mistakes. So I think Brock Purdy, what he did last week against the Cowboys, again, average game. He didn't have a bad game. He didn't have a great game. He did exactly what he needed to do. Got his team within scoring position many times. Um, if he can do that against the Eagles, we'll see how it goes. Depending on how the offense and for the Eagles and the defense is, but he cannot not have a bad game because it can just literally snowball into a terrible game for Brock Purdy, and that's exactly what we don't want as Kyle Shanahan, who I believe last week said that there was a possibility that Jimmy G might actually be available for this weekend game for the conference championship. So at that point, yeah, at that
No.
point, yeah, at that point, I'm saying like if it comes down to the second quarter, maybe like early third, you're down by a score and Purdy just threw an interception. Kind of like when you look at baseball, right? When your starting pitcher starts to kind of like get up there in the pitch count and he starts giving up a couple hits, it's like, am I taking him out for the fresh arm and someone who has proven that they can do really well in like tough situations? Because that to me is probably the quarterback that cannot have a bad day. All these guys are experienced. Mahomes, Super Bowl. Burrow, Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts, second year in the playoffs and won championships in Alabama. These guys know what pressure is like. Brock Purdy knows to a certain extent what pressure is like, but not the pressure of, if you don't win this game, our season's over and we don't go to the Super Bowl. If you win this game, we go to the Super Bowl. So to me, Brock Purdy is the most important quarterback this week to not have a bad day.
Yeah, I could agree with that. And if there's one thing that we know up to this point is that Brock Purdy has proven that he isn't scared of big moments.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is really, really important when you're talking about, hey, don't shit the bed. You have to
Mm-hmm.
first prove that you can arise to the occasion. And I think
Yeah.
Brock Purdy's done that twice now. And this one might feel a little different because you win and you're in the Super Bowl. So you
Mm-hmm.
can't you're still a human. You
Mm-hmm.
know what's at stake here. And I feel like as long as he just keeps doing what he's been doing, like even last week, we mentioned not the greatest game of Brock Purdy. The numbers don't fly off the screen, but Shanahan also wasn't calling the game for that. If you
Mm-hmm.
look at the play calling and just the kind of tune of the game, it was never going to have numbers jump off the screen. And if you
Yeah.
didn't watch the game, it could easily be interpreted as Brock Purdy kind of came down to earth a little bit. But it's also worth noting that Shanahan called a very conservative game plan.
Mm-hmm.
And what Brock Purdy didn't do, throw interceptions,
Mm-hmm.
turn the ball over.
You did not.
And
Yeah.
that is, I mean, that is so important because you got the pressure of Micah Parsons and just the ability to throw a ball away when
Mm-hmm.
nothing's there. And to me, I feel like we can trust him in the big moment. It's just going to be a matter of, can he do it again with the stakes a little higher? And it's
Yeah.
going to be really exciting to see. And if he wins the Super Bowl, nobody's going to be like, oh, he was on a great team. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can only say that so many times, because wasn't this team like very similar with Jimmy Garoppolo, and
Yeah.
people were shocked when they beat Green Bay because of that block punt. I
Yeah.
just think like if this is such an important game for like his future, if you only make it to the NFC Championship game and you lose, it all means nothing. And I hate to be that cut and dry, but
Mm-hmm.
no one will care. Everyone will say he was carried by his team. and then couldn't win in the biggest game. If he
Mhm.
wins this game, it'll literally be Brock Purdy carried his team. It's a total different, totally different
Yeah.
narrative if he wins this game. And I totally agree with yours too. Like Brock Purdy goes out there and has a bad day, like
Mhm.
49ers are going home. That's a great pick. I thought
Yeah.
mine was like the best, and then you said that, and I was like, that's pretty like because
Yeah.
we can agree that Hurts and Burrow don't have all the pressure on them,
Mhm.
but there's a good amount on Purdy and Mahomes this week.
Yeah, no, for sure. And we got Bill here in the comments saying, I'd say Hurts. They shit the bed when he wasn't there, but if Purdy goes down, then who throws the ball for them? And again, like I mentioned Jimmy G, but also again, like, are you playing catch up at that point? Like, how bad is Purdy and what's the score looking like if Jimmy G has to come in and throw the ball for the 49ers? So good point there. And I what do you think of this comment from Bill? Who are the Bengals without Burrow? I mean, I get it. So that's true because he also says, I was thinking from an injury standpoint, but if any of the four get hurt, they're screwed. And I,
Yeah,
I tend to agree with something like that. If any four of these guys go out of the game for, I would say, more than a quarter, I think it's like you're kind of fucked there.
I feel like we would have said that if Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt and Brock Purdy came in. I mean,
Yeah.
Kyle Shanahan, if there's one thing he's proven is that I mean, he needs to practice. Like, he needs a week
Mm-hmm.
of reps. Like, you can't
Mm-hmm.
just throw him in the middle of the game. But I would say if there's one coach that could overcome, I would pick Kyle Shanahan because you said
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy could be back. So, like, if he gets hurt, maybe you can throw him in. That's not a
Mm-hmm.
terrible scenario. But I totally agree. Like, Joe Burrow is a winner, and he wins football games. It's like he's a businessman, and business is
Mm-hmm.
what he does. Like, this is
Yeah.
like just Joe Burrow he is the Bengals. So
Yeah.
the only difference is the Bengals have a decent defense and a lot of weapons, but I totally agree with Bill. Like
Yeah.
any one of these quarterbacks goes out, I'll take the other team immediately to win the
Yeah.
game.
Yeah. And we think back to Burrow's rookie season, right? He got hurt for, I think, like I forget exactly when, but he was out for the rest of the year, right?
Yeah,
If
like
I'm not
week
mistaken.
7.
Yeah,
It was
week 7 or something. And like the Bengals were just kind of like, oh well, I mean, that's okay. The Bengals their quarterback's hurt, their rookie quarterback's hurt. I guess they're gone. Next year, they're in the Super Bowl, right? Like because of Joe
yeah.
Burrow. So yeah, it's like a lot of these teams, they're here for a reason, and the reason is like their quarterbacks, the weapons outside of their quarterbacks, and their defense, right? So if the quarterback, if the leader goes down, it's going to be a tough going for any team.
They went
With
4 and
that,
11 without Burrow.
yeah, yeah,
So
that's rough.
that is how you know what someone's worth. Manning, when he his neck surgery, he was
Mhm.
out for the whole year. The Colts went 1-15. That's when you know it's like, oh, it's Peyton Manning. I mean, I always knew, but people make
Yeah,
the argument like, oh, but Reggie Wayne, Marvin Harrison, Dallas Clark, like no, it's always the quarterback. It really
yeah,
is. It's always the quarterback, and that's why these receivers look so great. I'm sure there's great receivers. I'm sure Jamar Chase is going to be a great receiver no matter where he goes. Just
mhm,
like we saw Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams goes to, but he didn't have the best season. Like it wasn't like
yeah,
Devontae. I don't want to say he slipped, but last year when he was a Packer, it was like Devontae Adams is mentioned in your top 3 wide receivers. No, like stutter or moment of space
question,
to think
nothing.
about it. Now, if I said is Devontae Adams a top 3, what do you do?
Yeah,
Exactly. You
yeah,
think about it. And that
yeah,
is Derek Carr, right?
mhm,
So I do think like Manning goes out the whole year. Colts go 1-15 and get Andrew Luck because they get the number 1 overall pick. Like Bengals without Burrow, it's the same thing. They're
mhm,
4-11 team. Maybe they can squeak out 5 wins with a decent backup like Bridgewater, but no, that is the power of a franchise quarterback, and Trevor Lawrence is showing you also what that looks like.
yep. And then Bill saying it's always the quarterback. This is your opportunity to placate me and say something nice about DJ. One thing, it's all I ask. He is a very good running quarterback.
I
He is
made a
very
great
good.
video. I made a beautiful video for Giants fans. They loved it. It's on the our shorts. Go check it out, Bill.
Yeah.
It's something like the Giants have their franchise quarterback or something like that.
See, so Kyle definitely said some nice things about Daniel Jones.
Yeah, they
Go
just
check
weren't
it.
ready for the Eagles, but they'll get
That's
there.
true. That's true. That's true. All right, let's move on to our final segment. It's going to be a good one, and we're calling it Pat versus Joe. And if you're not a football fan, one, why are you watching this podcast? Two, Pat
Welcome though.
Mahomes. Yeah, welcome though. We appreciate you.
My t-shirt.
Pat Mahomes versus Joe Burrow. Now, Joe Burrow's 3-0 against the Chiefs. He's beaten them in the AFC Championship last year, and along with 2 regular season wins. Now, for me, that this was the week before the divisional championships that Kyle and I had this very spirited debate about this matchup, and how I didn't think it was anything really too, I guess, like too big to look at in a sense, because it's like 2 regular season wins, 1 playoff win to go to the Super Bowl, right? Like it wasn't like the sample size wasn't big enough yet. But now, for the second year in a row, they will meet each other in the AFC Championship game. And there's a couple things here to talk about. One, Pat Mahomes, 5th straight AFC Championship game, 2 Super Bowls, but only 1 Super Bowl win. There comes a point in time, and we saw it with Tom Brady, where you have to win your second one. And as many, in however successful the season may be, you have to win more than one to really establish yourself in this league is not only like one of the best quarterbacks in the league, but like a dynasty at that point with the team, right? With Andy Reid and the Chiefs and all that. And then you look at the other side too. It's like Joe Burrow, again, has played with a chip in his shoulder this entire postseason. Honestly, this entire season, really, because the entire NFL, all the analysts, all the talking heads basically said the Chiefs and the Bills are the 2 best teams in the AFC. And the Bengals were like, yo, actually, hold up. We just went to the Super Bowl last year and we just beat the fucking brakes off the Bills. What are you talking about, right? So now Joe Burrow and the Bengals can establish themselves as a real AFC powerhouse if they can make their second Super Bowl in as many seasons. So Kyle, I'll open it up to you. I'm going to go grab another seltzer before we start this conversation.
Yeah. So I'll read some of these stats. So what is this? Mahomes on the year has 5,250 yards with 41 touchdowns, 12 interceptions for a 27-year-old quarterback. He's pretty much taken over the league since he's come in. Joe Burrow, 26 years old, isn't that far behind. So 4,475 yards, 35 touchdowns, 12 picks on the season. And a lot of people forget this is just Joe Burrow's second season as a full starter. It's easy to just It's easy to just be like, get used to Joe Burrow, but dude, this is second season as a starter. Number 2, in his first one, he took him to the Super Bowl. So head-to-head career, Joe Burrow versus Mahomes. Okay, we'll do touchdown to interception ratio. Joe Burrow's 8-1 on TDs to picks. Patrick Mahomes not far behind, but 6-2. 1 more pick, 2 fewer touchdowns. Passing yards per game, Mahomes averaging 252 and Burrow averaging 327. Completion percentage, Mahomes 67%, Joe Burrow's at 72%. And then the most important one, wins, Joe Burrow 3, Patrick Mahomes 0. That includes also the Chiefs-Bengals Week 13 matchup when Burrow only threw 6 incompletions in the entire game and had 2 touchdowns and 286 yards. So I see a lot in these stats, right? I see that the Chiefs defense is also kind of screwing Mahomes a little bit, because when I see passing yards per game 252, I don't think, oh, Mahomes is a worse passer of the football. I'm like, oh, Mahomes is playing a better defense. But completion percentage, like, look, I said this on the debate, and it might have been a little premature, but I just felt like what Joe Burrow did was not really taken seriously. When he won in the AFC Championship game on the road, it was like, but Mahomes is Mahomes, and Joe Burrow just got here. Like, and then he won again during the regular season, and I'm like, does anyone realize like it's 3 in a row and he's outplaying, and no other quarterback has a streak against Mahomes. Like if you beat Mahomes once, it's considered, you bested Mahomes. That's a big deal. You
Yeah.
bested Mahomes 3 times in a row. Wait, who are you? What?
One of
So
those being in the biggest game
yeah,
of
in the
this year.
biggest
Yeah.
game in his first season as a full-time starter for the Bengals. And
Mhm.
and let's not, act like, hey, anybody could do it. Like Joe Burrow was a much higher recruited quarterback coming out of college. Like he took LSU to national championship and won. He
Mhm.
was that dude in college football. Like he was the best quarterback in the nation when he was there. And then I feel like when he got drafted, then like the Trevor Lawrence thing kicked off, but he may have been a big deal in that same season. But that's the point that I have to think about it is like Joe Burrow was that dude, and then he got drafted to the Bengals, and they
Mhm.
asked him to turn around a franchise, and he did it. He did it, and he took the team to 2 conference championships in his first 2 seasons. And meanwhile, Patrick Mahomes was a talent like we've never seen, but from Texas Tech, and he
Mhm.
wasn't highly graded. He wasn't really highly. There wasn't a lot of hype when he was drafted, and then he got in the field, and it was like, who is this dude? And he kind of just he was every kid's favorite player immediately.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted to be like Mahomes, to throw no look passes. How many backyards in America have had kids playing 3-on-3 and try to do no look passes or even walk like
Yeah.
Mahomes? Like I remember being a kid and wanting to
Oh
be like
yeah.
Manning, and
Yep.
he's everyone's favorite. And Joe Burrow, I think with a win like this, and for better or for worse, I think Joe Burrow is going to start to become people's favorite because nobody likes the loser. Nobody likes, I mean, because it's like fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, like shame on me. All right,
Yeah.
now we get to 4 in a row, and 2 of them are going to be in Arrowhead. And Joe Burrow is his first 2 full seasons. All he did was tell Mahomes, like, you will not go to the Super Bowl as long as I'm playing full seasons. Okay, this is my second time doing it, and you have to go through me. The world
Mhm.
might be saying, look, the Bengals have to go through Arrowhead. I guarantee you, Joe Burrow is thinking they have to go through me.
Yeah.
The Chiefs have to go through Joe Burrow, and that is why I feel I guess passionate about this is because I feel like we're seeing it, but because Mahomes is everyone's favorite player and he's so
Mhm.
much fun to watch, I feel like people are lagging on the truth and the respect. And I think it's harder for people to kind of give that up because Mahomes is such a elite talent and Joe Burrow doesn't have some of that and flashes of just Mahomes' stuff.
Yeah.
He just he's just a winner, and I
Mhm.
think that's less fun. It's not as fun to watch. I think that you said, like, I don't know why I always want Mahomes to go to the Super Bowl, but when Brady was dominating, I like that too. I'm the same way.
Mhm.
I'm the same way. Like when Brady won a ring, I was like, how many can he win? As long as the Broncos are out, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like go get 10 of them. Like let's make the
Mhm.
story crazy. I feel the same way about Mahomes. I do believe Mahomes was the next Tom Brady and he's going to win 7 Super Bowls. And I think he could do that. But then Joe Burrow comes into the picture and
Yeah.
it's like, wait a minute, we might have to park the brakes on all of this and
Yeah.
reevaluate what we thought. And I think for these 2 games, there was a moment in Russell Wilson's career where he was playing Tom Brady and they decided to pass the ball on the 1-yard line. And because of that decision, the Patriots won the game and Tom Brady won his 3rd Super Bowl and Russell Wilson still kept 1. If
Yeah.
they run the ball and Marshawn Lynch scores, they both have 2. So
Mhm.
when you talk about looking back for, the turning point in a career, it was the decision to run the ball. Tom Brady and Russell Wilson would have both had 2 rings. Instead, Russ gets 1, Tom gets 3, and the rest is history. this is one of those games, I think.
That was well put, Kyle. We gotta give it up. Gotta give it for Kyle on that one. I love that one. Kyle hates praise. He's like a fucking cat. Like, get the fuck away from me. Just
My dad never did it, so I don't know how to respond.
Oh my God, are we about to unpack some shit? No, all right. So what I will say about all this, right? And I'm just gonna mention a really quick little thing here. The conversation is Pat Mahomes and Joe Burrow. And the absence of Josh Allen is probably one of the biggest things in this conversation. But he just keeps losing the big game. Stephon Diggs said it, right? Like, I can't be happy with losing every single time, 3 years in a row, blah, 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 blah. I think that's a huge part of this. But that's another conversation for another day, because right now it's Pat Mahomes, Joe Burrow, this legacy game, right? I mentioned it earlier, and you mentioned Tom Brady and how you think Mahomes can be that guy, can be like a Brady. It took Tom a while to win 3, right? Was it 2012 when he won his 3rd one against the Seahawks? I forget exactly the year.
That was 2014.
Was it? Okay, so
yeah, because they beat the Broncos in 2013, so this would have been the next year. They went back to back.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, it took Brady a while. Yeah, for sure. It took Brady a while, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But when you've been to the AFC Championship game 5 years in a row, and all you've come away is one Super Bowl, then it's kind of like, okay, well, now because the NFL looks at these quarterbacks and wants to accelerate it, right? In 2 years, if you're not the guy, you're out. If you're in 2 years, if you're not the coach, you're out. Right? Like in 5 years, in 5 AFC Championship games, if you're not winning multiple Super Bowls, it's kind of like, okay, well, we just paid you $500 million, right? Like, what are we getting? Are we getting the Pat Mahomes before, the contract extension, things like that? So you start to think about those things. For Joe Burrow, if he wins, he's made it to his 2nd Super Bowl in a row. Right? This is like, okay, now maybe this is actually the Tom Brady we were looking at, and we crowned Mahomes a little too early, right? So this game is huge for this, I want to say, saga of Mahomes versus Burrow, because if this continues, right, now it's all of a sudden a Peyton Manning and a Brady like a duel, right? But the thing is, who is the Brady and who is the Peyton Manning? Who's the guy who wins 1 Super Bowl and who's the guy who wins 7 with the same team, or with 6 with the same team, right? And who's the person who is always there but doesn't necessarily make it? And does Josh Allen, is he really the Peyton Manning, or is he more of the Roethlisberger who's like, he's good, blah, blah, things like that. So between Pat and Joe, who really becomes the Peyton Manning and who really becomes Tom Brady? Because when we talk about these QB duels, right, that's the most recent, at least in our lifetimes, I think, the most recent duel that we can really look at in one conference and be like, this was awesome, year in, year out.
Oh, man.
Right?
I just want to say, to your point, if you look at that, the Patriots always had a defense because Belichick's a defensive guy and Brady's a system quarterback. And Manning had an explosive offense, but no defense.
Yeah. The only time he had a good defense was the year he won the Super Bowl against the Bears.
So think about that. Mahomes, great explosive offense, no defense. Joe Burrow, system quarterback, really good with a good defense. Like, makes sense to me.
And yeah, man. And look at Zach Taylor. Zach Taylor was like a nobody on the Bengals or on this league before he started winning games with Burrow. And it was like, what? Zach Taylor is doing amazing things, this and that. It's kind of like a little bit like Belichick. Kind of came out of nowhere, started off with the Browns, coaching them, got the head coaching job here. Obviously the two personalities are a little different, but this AFC Championship game is going to be huge for this legacy here. Oh man, I look, like I said earlier when we were making our predictions, I want Mahomes to win because I do want him like Kyle said, to be one of the best quarterbacks of this generation. And I think going to the playoffs multiple years in a row, breaking records, having great seasons with one team, being committed to one team is definitely going to cement his legacy as one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL for this generation. But just like Manning, when you're down here and you got Tom Brady up here, it's like Manning was good. Manning is a Hall of Famer and a great quarterback, but Brady's got the Super Bowl rings to prove it. So this one, I think, does kind of change the trajectory for the Chiefs if they end up losing or if they end up winning. Really.
I've never been so excited for football. Like,
yeah.
I don't know if it's because I'm getting used to my team not being in it. Because I used to just be sad around the playoffs, like, oh, my team's not in, who cares? But now maybe I'm just getting used to or it's just gonna be amazing football. Dude, I just want to like wake up in tomorrow's football. Like I have that type of excitement. And then to close this out, I'll give you something really controversial that Dan Orlovsky said on
oh no, not Dan
on
Orlovsky.
He's obviously he's a Chiefs fan. He's a big Chiefs fan, and I know that because I'm a Broncos fan, and every time he talks, it's Patrick Mahomes. It drives me crazy. Especially when he debunked like the Broncos were ever going to be good this year. I really didn't like him. I was like, what do you have against the Broncos? And then I found out.
Wait,
and I was like, oh my.
He really said the Broncos were going to be good this year?
Yeah, he said Mahomes was washed up.
Wow, the only guy to get it right, I feel like.
Yeah, but I feel like he would have said that. I feel like he got lucky with that one.
Yeah.
But this is what he said. He said it was on January 23rd during a segment of Get Up. He said Joe Burrow is the best quarterback in football. Orlovsky began before quickly hedging that Patrick Mahomes is the better all-around player. Let me be very clear with what I'm saying here, Chiefs fans. Patrick Mahomes, best player. He's the most talented player in the NFL, and he's the most dynamic weapon. Joe Burrow is the better quarterback in football when it comes to quarterbacking. When it comes to understanding play calls, when it comes to understanding what you have to do with the football, when it comes to understanding what the defense is, when it comes to understanding pocket manipulation, when it comes to timing and rhythm and accuracy and ball placement, Joe Burrow is the best, and he's the standard right now. It's bold.
Yeah.
He said all the stuff Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts do, guys can't do that stuff. He had it. They're outliers when it comes to so much of their stuff, and the stuff that Joe Burrow does, you can replicate, but he's the only one who does it consistently. That's the thing that fascinates me about Joe Burrow. He's talking about pure quarterbacking. And that's what I was kind of saying earlier when I was like, Mahomes has all this extra stuff that's like, he has the wow factor. Like if you wanted to like show somebody what football is that never saw it before, you would find a Chiefs game and you'd be like, watch this. This will excite you. But when you are, and Dan Orlovsky's a ex-quarterback, you can really appreciate just the pure quarterback of Joe Burrow. Like just all the little attention to details and the brain, you know what I mean? And understanding what's going on. And it's an interesting debate. I think it's going to shift in a monumental way, depending on what happens on Sunday. And I'm excited to record that with you, especially the way we're going to do it.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. And you know, listening to that or, you know, when you were reading what Dan Orlovsky said, like it's true because Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, like you said, they're very athletic guys, and Joe Burrow, athletic, but he's more of like, Joe Burrow is what you show to a high school quarterback on how to be a quarterback. If you just want to be a pocket passer and not, you know, and become very good at it and just like pass the ball, zip it, go through all your like your options, right? 1 through 4, back to 1, back to 3, things like that. You show them Joe Burrow. But if you got an athlete kind of guy, and you show him Josh Allen, you show him Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, all these guys, because we do think, and we said it earlier, that the league might start banking on guys that are more like Lamar Jackson, Fields, Hurts, Mahomes, Allen. But you have to appreciate, like Dan Orlovsky said, that pure quarterbacking from Joe Burrow and how well he does to execute it. So, like very, very, very great words by Dan Orlovsky. And like you said, he's a former quarterback, so he knows for sure.
Yeah, and Robert Griffin the third is also a former quarterback, and
Mm-hmm.
he had pushback against it and said, if you prefer Burrow over Mahomes, then just say that. But if you say Mahomes is the best player and plays quarterback, it makes zero sense to say that Burrow is the best QB at quarterbacking. Quarterbacking is exactly what Mahomes is doing. All love
Mm-hmm.
Dan Orlovsky. So I mean, this is going to be the Tom Brady Peyton Manning thing. I really think like when it starts coming from guys like this and people get really heated, like even you and me
Yeah.
on that last
Last week's
podcast,
episode. Yeah.
like we were really passionate about this.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that is kind of that we haven't really had that since Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. That
Yeah.
true debate, it's like
And it's,
the MJ LeBron thing, but for
yeah.
football.
And it's so funny because neither of these teams are our teams. We're Bears
Yeah.
and Broncos fans. It's like, who the fuck are these guys to be that passionate about Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs and the Bengals? It's like, well, because we can appreciate the teams and the football that is being played on the field. Like that's just really the bottom line of it. And I feel like when you were saying, right, like I wish I could wake up and tomorrow is football, or go to sleep and tomorrow wake up and it's the conference championship between these two teams. I think it's just elevated too because we started this podcast. I think that's
Yeah.
what it is. It just becomes elevated because now me and you are like way more focused on like the games being played, the storylines of players, like what this means for football over the last 4 seasons, 5 years, whatever it is. It just means a lot, and we just care more because we try to make it our job to give you guys the best of what we can give you, the best information, the best takes on what the football is today.
Absolutely. So let's wrap this up with this simple question, okay?
Mm-hmm.
More important for the legacy of Burrow or Mahomes?
Right now, I would say it's more important for the legacy of Mahomes. And the reason is because of the things I've said before. 5th AFC Championship game, already signed his extension for $500 million, and how good he's been since he entered the league and has only one Super Bowl win under his belt. Don't get me wrong. If this was the Bears, I'd be so happy. But when you are sustaining and expecting this success, you expect the Super Bowls to just almost come naturally in a sense. So I think right now, this Sunday, whatever the result may be on Sunday, is going to be a testament to the legacy of Mahomes.
See, and I'm gonna go with Burrow as my final answer, just because Mahomes has a Super Bowl. He has a Super Bowl MVP. Like he has that.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Burrow has been to a Super Bowl, but he lost, and Mahomes has been to another one and lost. So
Yeah.
Mahomes has gone to 2 Super Bowls, while Joe Burrow went and lost. That gets remembered only for 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
If he doesn't go to the Super Bowl this year, next year it's going to be like, okay, Joe Burrow, like he's a good quarterback. He'll get you
Mm-hmm.
into the playoffs, but that's it. Where Mahomes loses this game next season, the hype will be exactly the same.
Yeah.
I think it would be like Patrick Mahomes will get you to the AFC Championship game, and every 2 years we win a Super Bowl. Every 3 years, at least we're in the Super Bowl. So I think Joe Burrow, in order to stay in this conversation, and he wants to be considered the best, he's got to go in there and he's got to not just go to the Super Bowl, he's got to win the Super Bowl, no matter who it is, 49ers or the Eagles. He has to go and win that game, which is going to be insanely hard. But Burrow, I would take his team right now. If I had to pick a team to beat the Niners or Eagles in the Super Bowl, I would be like, can I get the Bengals? I want the Bengals.
Okay.
So it'll be fun to see how it plays out.
For sure. And yeah, man, it's just and the AFC has so many good quarterbacks right now. It's ridiculous. Like if you guys saw from the wild card all the way up to now and into the Super Bowl, you're just like, the AFC is going to be a problem for the next decade at minimum. So it's just awesome to see. And again, as football heads, as only football heads like we are, it's just exciting.
Yeah.
But yeah, that wraps up today's episode. Want to give a huge shout out to my mom who stopped by, Bill. Bill, as always, thank you for stopping by, man. We appreciate you always kind of hopping in the comments, showing us love, and listening to us blabber on about football. Shout out to a lot of the guys from Twitch actually today. Milwaukee's Best, chairman of the board, Action Lab, who actually got a lot of the Twitch viewers in from a raid, similar to what Tom Grassi did to us, who brought in like Bill, Jinja, Steve, a lot of these guys. So huge shout out to Action Lab, Scotty A. Smith, BW Fuck, coming in into the comments here. So we really appreciate you guys stopping in, commenting, and one last comment here by Bill. You guys are the best and have a lot of fun with it. Appreciate it, Bill. Again, really appreciate your words of encouragement and always kind of hopping in with us and listening to us talk about only football. Yep. So Kyle, before we get out of here, where can they find you on Twitter to find all your takes, all your Denver Broncos news, all your retweets, all your everything?
We're gonna get Sean Payton. I'm losing hope in that, because there was a story that just broke that the reason Sean Payton hasn't scheduled his second interview with the Waltons is because Rob Walton is on a hunting trip.
Hey, that's just rich people shit right there.
Yeah, this is not. But then he came back out and was like, "Oh, I don't know where you guys heard that." It's just like the drama when you're following this. It's like every day you're like going towards Sean Payton or you're going away from Sean Payton, and it's just like, how long is this going to go on? But follow the whole process at FTBL Only Podcast. Give me a follow. I would appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. Go follow him so he could keep you updated on Sean Payton and everything else Broncos. You could follow me at And Now Rick right up here. You can see me tweeting about Bear stuff, Bull stuff, Chicago stuff, NFL stuff. Just go follow me. And then you can also follow the Star 6 Media page at _Star 6 Media. Right up there. And if you look down at the ticker, you can also follow Star 6 Media at Star 6 Media on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, and Facebook. We're also available on all podcast platforms. So all these episodes get turned into podcasts. So if you missed something at the beginning, you can always go back and listen to us, not only here on YouTube, but also on all the other platforms we're on, and on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcast, whatever. And Bill just said he just hit the bell. Cue subscribe and hit the bell YouTube speech.
Thanks, Bill.
You subscribe to our YouTube, hit the bell to get all the notifications, just like Bill just did. Again, follow us, subscribe, like, and share our stuff. And you could also listen to the other podcasts and live stream shows that we have on Star 6 Media, like EAFP, JCA Sports, 3 Up, 3 Down, Sports Strip Live, and Slot Shot. So go check us all out. We're all over the place here on Star 6 Media. And again, we appreciate you guys being here on Only Football with Kyle and I. Kyle, we've got a great weekend of football, a great Sunday of football coming up. You got anything for the people before we get out of here?
Just Kansas City's weather on Sunday right now. It's predicted to be 26 degrees as a high, 14 degrees as a low, cloudy, only a 4% chance of precipitation.
All right. I love that. I love that Kyle always has a little tidbit before we get out of here. I love it. I fucking love it. I don't know what it is, but it's just like, no matter what, Kyle's always got a little something, and it just like wraps the show up perfally.
It's like the chives on the food. Like, you don't need them, right? But it's nice to see it.
So good. Yeah. Yeah. It just really completes the meal. But all right, Kyle, we will, again, catch us on Sunday, because we are about to give you guys one of the best live streams for conference championship football there ever will be here on Only Football. Kyle, I will see you then.
See ya.
See ya.